Good evening, everyone. Secrets make me happy. I want you to think about a time where your earliest childhood memory, where you had a secret. What did you do? For me, that was about 20 years ago. There were no social networks. There were no photo sharing apps. There was no cloud. Everything was analog. So what did I do? I wrote things down and I hid them somewhere that I felt safe in. It was my bedroom. I wrote things down, I put it in my bedroom. For me, that was my safe space. So where is your safe space? So a safe space is a place where you feel comfortable being in. It's comfortable doing things that will make you free. You don't have to worry about people critiquing you. So for me, that was my bedroom. You wouldn't just go through your sibling's room. You definitely did not go through your parents' room. And you wouldn't go through your girlfriend's purse. And you remember, when you gave someone your phone, you didn't want them swiping left or right or quickly going to Snapchat to see what you were looking at. For you, that was your safe space, the place where you hid things. But I always hear these things, well, who cares? I have nothing to hide. Well, I really hate that phrase, I have nothing to hide. Because I really think you do have something to hide. And I want you to have something to hide. You wouldn't, and I want to just change that question up. Because I have nothing to hide, even though it seems a little relevant. I want to change it to something like, are you okay with handing your information to anyone at any time? Again, let me say that again. Are you okay voluntarily giving your information up to anyone who asks at any time? Whether that be a stranger that found your phone on the street? What about your parents? Are you okay with giving them your phone so they can critique your text messages? Are there any sort of notes that you didn't want your best friends to see, you were embarrassed by? I want to go back to strangers. Well, what about strangers? At best, a stranger is someone that finds your phone after you lost it, and they go through and look at stuff. But what about college admissions? They're strangers. You put your application in, they're critiquing you. What happens if you got a call and they said, well, please come in, we want you to give us your social media credentials. We want to make sure that you're a good fit. You okay with that? What about an employer? You just graduated, you got offered that job, HR sits with you, and now they say, well, we want you to write down your social network credentials so we can periodically check on you. We want to make sure that what you write and what you say fits in line with our company. And what about the government? We don't even know what they collect. We just assume that everything they do is finding out all the information they can. Every line we've said, well, the government can't do that. Well, guess what? They've done it. And it's scary. But I keep on hearing, but, there's nothing on my phone. Really? There's nothing? I want to talk about physical access. So when you hand someone your phone or someone finds your phone. So other than the photos, the emails, the text messages, the apps, all that's there for them to use, what else is there? There's metadata. So let's start with photos. Let's look at all your photos. We can take that information, those geolocation coordinates, and we can put it on a map. Oh, no one has time for that. Really? There's an app for that. You could take all those photos, put them on a map. I can probably figure out where you live, where you work, and where you play. Let's go back to text messages and phone calls. Think about the phone calls. I can look and see who your most recently contacted people are, or your most contacted. Don't you think those are probably your parents and your really close friends? I bet you I can socially engineer them into giving us the information that I need. What about your browser history? It's a feature now that your browser history goes from device to device to make sure that we have the best information about you. Let's move on. Let's look at permissions. So permissions are access that you grant to an app in order to do its job. So a really simple example is you want a flashlight app. You want to be able to see in the dark. So the flashlight app says, hey, can I use your camera? And you say, sure, because you understand that you need to have the flash go off so you can see. But why does a flashlight app need access to your contacts, or to the internet, or to your location? You know those secret rumor sharing apps that are completely anonymous? How come they ask for your contacts? What are they going to do? Tell your contacts that you're on this? I thought it was supposed to be anonymous. And then you say, well, I'm going to go through it later. Really? You're going to go through it later? When are you going to go through all those permissions later for every app and say, oh, I really don't need that? And if your friends are all using one app, are you just going to say no? I next want to talk about tracking. So we don't even know how tracking works. All we know is that we go search a product, and for the next week or couple months, we see that product everywhere. We see it everywhere. We see it in our Google searches. We see it in our Facebook feed. We see it on Amazon as a recommended item. We don't know how it works. We just hope that at some point it goes away until the next thing we search for. But what happens if one of your friends, as a practical joke, says, here, click on this link, and it's something you don't agree with? Now for months we're going to have this, and it's just tracking you everywhere you go. So I want to ask you, or what to do. Well, let me tell you that security can't be retroactive. You can't just flip a switch and have all these bad things go away. If you can do that, please find me later. I would definitely like to know how to do that. I'm sure all of us would. So what do people do? They make fake profiles. They put a different photo of them. They change their name slightly. They use their middle name as their first name. But we all know why they're doing that. They're all trying to hide something. But instead of just hiding it, they're changing it around a little bit. You're not the first person to do this. You won't be the last either. And everyone knows it. So then you say, well, let me just go dark. I'm just going to get off all social media. Well, then we definitely know something's up, right? If you don't have a profile, you're not active for a few weeks, what do you get? You get an email from your social media company saying, hey, come back. And not only do they send you an email, they send your friends an email. Hey, get your friend back on. It's really hard to deal with this. So let me give you a real life example. Every year around this time, the seniors play a game of Senior Assassins, where the object is to throw a water balloon at your opponent. So what do you have to do? You have to find out where they work, where they live, what car they drive, all this public information that 2 weeks ago you didn't care. 2 weeks ago you posted a selfie at home and you tagged the location. Now, 2 weeks later, you're frantically going back trying to hide that information. Well, you can't just do it. You can't just hide that information. You can try, but everyone can just look at your Snapchat stories and find out where they are. So I want to leave you with the idea that it's okay to have secrets. Nobody can tell you otherwise. The problem is having secrets is difficult. Everyone wants to be public, and your friends want to post information about you. It is your job to tell them it's not okay. It is your job to say, please don't do that. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, it's a constant struggle to do this, but it's okay. You are entitled to have that information to yourself. The problem is security is really hard and has to constantly be monitored. It's up to you and you alone to do this. So I want to thank you, and I want you to remember it's okay to have secrets. Thank you, everybody.